What's up ninjas, Brendan here. I wanted to very quickly demonstrate a brand new skill that I worked on recently, and it is for developer journeys, or rather the process of creating one. So you start off with a persona which just has these four fields: a name, a description, a demographic, and a psychographic summary, and then you pass it into the agent skill called devrel-journey-map, and that will ask you a series of questions by interviewing you either as a devrel or as the persona. You're role-playing that persona, and you'll create all of these questions and answers by stages and work out what the touch points are, suggest some as well, and then when you get to the end of it, it'll perform some validation and ask you to check a few things. Finally, it gives you some instructions that it has output everything that you've answered into this JSON format. That's a more easily parsable version of what's in the markdown file. And what you do with that is you take the developer journey map file that will also have been generated. You simply press this button next to import called JSON, and you load it up. Then you get all of the questions and answers. For example, if you click on that or that, you've got all the questions and answers that you see, and you also have all the touch points arranged according to the stage you're in. And I'll just make that a little bit smaller so that we can see it all on the screen. What you can do is you can create new touch points like this. It's editable. You can double click on anything, and then you can start an arrow and draw paths, and you can have multiple paths branching out, and you can also have multiple paths going in. This allows you to define the flows that your developer persona is likely to take, or you think is likely to take, based on your developer experience research. Now, you can also make loops like that, for example, and you can even skip. Yep. Therefore, you can represent cycles as well, so that's not prohibited. So there you go. You can define the touch points like that. The questions and answers, you can actually edit them. You can also reorder based on, say, importance. Reorder between columns, that sort of thing. And now let's say you have a touch point that you don't like. You can simply drag it over here and delete it. Likewise, if you double click on any arrow, you can change where it is pointing to. Or if you'd like to get rid of an arrow, you can also double click on it and move it over here, and the arrow gets discarded. All right, that's how you manipulate or edit the developer journey map interactively in HTML. You can export this to save it, and it'll just get saved to disk. You can export a PNG file to your disk or an SVG file, and for PDF, it'll export it as a PDF file as well, which looks the same. Let's take a look at the image that was generated. So pretty much looks exactly the same, and with the SVG, that's what it looks like as well. And finally, you can even do night mode and dark mode if you feel like it. I'll point out over here that this format of this diagram was actually copied from the Developer Relations book by Caroline Luco and James Parton, and I strongly recommend the book, not just for the dev journey map, but for pretty much everything else in it. Also, I'd like to highlight the article by Dana Fujikawa, who inspired the concept of having directed graphs through what would otherwise be a linear sequence. The graph representation is actually more realistic of what developer journeys actually go through. Yeah, try out the devrel journey map. Here it is on GitHub. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Ciao, bye.